When hiking in the Scottish mountains, you find yourself in some amazing places. The terrain can be rough and weather unpredictable, but the sense of adventure and the views that follow are what make it all worthwhile. So join us on this adventure as we hike up high and camp down low in Scotland's magnificent Great Glen. The adventure began on the shores of Loch Lochy, with great views down to the village of Laggan. The track was well built and gave views over the loch down below. Eventually we entered into a forest. Instantly we left behind all the noise and were greeted with tranquility. It was a perfect start to the walk. Welcome back to another adventure, everyone. Today you join us for some hiking and camping in the central Scottish Highlands. We've just left a wee place called Kilfinnan back in that direction, and we're currently making our way through the woods heading for Two Munros. The first section of this trail follows the Great Glen Way, so it's a really good path, and we've just left Loch Lochy, which is down to our left there. So we'll continue on and I'll tell you a bit more about the Munros on the way up. Quite a peaceful start, just surrounded by trees. Not really too windy either, and this path is just really good, so should be able to make good progress quite quickly. We carried on through the forest, clocking up miles on the gravel track, until we came across a turn-off point. We'd be following signs for the Loch Lochy Munros, and heading high up into the mountains. It would be nothing but uphill from here on. We've just left the Great Glen Way, so I'd imagine the path is not going to be as good from here on. And we haven't really gained too much elevation so far. It was pretty flat, so I'd imagine this is going to be pretty steep, heading up to the Bealoch. And then I think both the Munros are on either side, so it'll be up and down and then up and down. Yeah, not too bad so far. Yeah, this is very steep. Sounds like there's a waterfall down there as well, but can't see it. Just look how dense this forest is. Pretty incredible. So peaceful walking in the forest. We carried on up through the near vertical track, gaining elevation quicker than expected. We could hear the sound of a waterfall in the distance, getting louder with every step. We were running low on water, and the thought of drinking some, fresh off the mountain, was enough to entice us to stop. We left the waterfall behind, and we're now climbing up through the glen. We're now up and out of the forest, and there's a bit of a breeze up here because we're getting higher, and this glen is more open, which is very welcomed. It is roasting hot, but look at these views. Incredible. Back down to Loch Lochy behind us, and you can probably see the A82 road just over the other side. That is some view, and I'm sure it's just going to get better the higher we get up. That is the Bealoch come into view. You can probably make it out just there, so we're pretty much just following this path, heading up there, and then both the Munros are on either side. Doesn't look too far now. Really quite a nice start though next to this river. Really enjoying it so far. We began the steep ascent up the glen, with the wind speed picking up as we climbed higher. Only a fraction of Loch Lochy was visible in the far distance. We knew we were getting close. Well, we've made it up to the Bealoch at a height of about 600 metres, or 650, around then. And I think that's most of the hard work done. We've now got to just head up both Munros on either side of this Bealoch. I think we're going to head up the left one first, and it looks pretty steep, but there's some nice views looking west. I'll spin you around and show you. So that is looking west. Really nice view down into that glen. Looks quite remote, there's just nothing there. And this is where we're heading. That's the path. I think it sort of just heads up in that direction, and I think that might be the top of the first Monroe just up there. We've now got about 300 or 350 metres of ascent up to this first Monroe. I think it's fairly small, I think like 920 metres or so. So hopefully that shouldn't be too bad. Because it's steep, that should actually work in our favour, and we should get up there pretty quickly. So let's crack on. This path is really cool. Pretty much just curving round this big mount to our left, and you can maybe make out the path heading up to the first Monroe. Just heads for that ridgeline and then up to the top. And the views are absolutely incredible. We think that might be into Neudart, the sort of rough bounds area. Amazing. I'm sure they'll be even better from up there. We were on the final push to the summit. The path zigzagged back and forth to make the ascent somewhat easier. The terrain was still punishingly steep, and at times felt near vertical. After a struggle, we reached the summit plateau and headed straight for the cairn at the top of the mountain. Oh yes, we have made it to the top of Mio Nachanga at a height of 918 metres, and this is Monroe number 148 for me. And we've got quite lucky with the views. The visibility is so good, and there's just a bit of a breeze to keep all the wee insects away. Absolutely incredible. I mean, what an incredible view that is. That is looking down to Loch Glen, and just to the left there, you can't miss it, is Ben Nevis. Wow. What a view. That is incredible. The view towards Scotland's tallest mountain was breathtaking. However, it was Loch Lynn down below that caught the eye. I sat for a while, in awe of the scenery all around. It felt like a moment I had to be present for. We really have lucked out with the visibility up here. There's just so many mountains. I mean, look at that. I think if I tried to name all of those, I'd be here all day. But that is absolutely incredible. There's mountains everywhere you look. That's us leaving the first Monroe now and en route to the second. And for what is described as not that great a Monroe, I'm actually really surprised with the views up the top. The views are amazing. You just feel like you're in the middle of it all, and there's just mountains pretty much in every direction. Yes, definitely surprised me. A lot better than I thought it was going to be. Quite a steep descent, as it was on the way up. And there's quite... Oh. Flipping heck, that was a huge gust of wind. There's really nice views down to the left, and it's actually quite steep drops off in that direction. But you might be able to make out the second Monroe. That is it, just there. And in fact, you might actually be able to make out the path. Just sort of zigzags up there and just sort of follows up to that ridgeline and then up to the top. Really doesn't look too far now. These gusts up here are actually quite mental. Here's another one coming. The wind itself isn't actually too bad, but just every so often there's just really big gusts coming in. And I think because we're sort of skirting around the mountain right now, we're just getting hit side on by it. We headed for the Bealach, getting battered by the wind, and soon enough we arrived, prepared for a similar task on the opposite side. We have returned to the Bealach now, and it really is quite windy here just because it's so exposed in that direction. But that really didn't take long at all. I think just because it's downhill, so we're not going to take a break or anything, we're just going to head straight up to the second Monroe. This path is even steeper, just zigzagging our way up the side of the mountain. Man, that looks steep. It's going to be tough. We headed upwards, zigging one way, zagging the other, until we eventually attempted our final zig along the windy summit ridge. winds swept across the summit and were bitterly cold, so we had a quick look at the views towards Loch Ness and decided to head off the mountain. That's us made it back down into the original Glen we came up, and that was actually pretty tough at times, especially on the second Munro. The wind was just mental on the way up to the summit, so we didn't hang around for too long. But we're now just going to retrace our steps back down this glen and hopefully find somewhere to camp alongside Loch Lochy. We're thinking alongside the loch's going to be our best bet, maybe on a wee secluded beach or something like that. So yeah, we'll continue heading down this glen and hopefully bring you back when we've found somewhere to camp. Well, welcome to the shores of Loch Lochy, and this is absolutely beautiful. It's just idyllic. I mean, listen to the sound of the water just hitting against the shore. It's so peaceful. You'd struggle to find better sounds, to be honest. Sure, we won't have any problems sleeping tonight. We've even got a view up to the Munros that we were up today, which is incredible. What a spot. I think I'm going to try and find a spot to pitch our tents. There seems like there's some nice spots along the beach. Wow, amazing. That's us got the tents pitched, and it's such a great spot. It's just so peaceful. You can just hear the waves hitting against the shore. Definitely going to sleep really well tonight. I'm really excited for that because I'm actually pretty tired after today's Munros. But there's also just a little bit of a breeze right now, which is perfect because it's keeping the midges away. I haven't actually seen a midgie yet since we've pitched, which is pretty uncommon in Scotland. But we're forecast rain in about an hour or so. It's 8 PM right now, and the sunset isn't until like 10 o'clock, so I'm just going to enjoy these views whilst I still can, because I'm pretty sure very soon there's going to be some rain heading our way and I'll be retreating back to the tent. As the sun headed down behind the mountains, we sat and enjoyed the views, looking down Loch Lochy. It was a peaceful area, with the sound of waves lapping against the shore, drowning out any surrounding noise. We could tell the rain was coming, so decided to retreat to the tents, after a long day in the mountains. We woke up to calmer conditions, and watched as the morning mist rolled over the mountains across the loch. It had rained overnight, covering the tent, and more rain was forecast, so we dismantled camp and set off along the beach. Well, that's us up and on the move, and what a great spot that was last night. Literally just so peaceful. I slept so well. I must have got like at least 8 hours sleep, which is pretty hard to get in a tent sometimes. There wasn't too much wind. There wasn't really much midges after maybe like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And just the sound of the water just hitting against the shore. Absolutely amazing. As usual, we've left no trace, just the dry patches on the beach where we pitched our tents. But yeah, I think that's going to be it from me. The weather's not too great today, so I don't think we're going to do any Munros. So if you've enjoyed this adventure, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It's much appreciated and it really helps push the channel out. And I'll hopefully see you guys next time for another adventure.